we are going to talk about the beautiful east coast and west coast of our incredible India.
Then don't miss the little run of Kutch.
Nethrini Island is known as the scuba diving capital of India.
There are signs to say there is a submerged city down there.
Indian food is just not butter chicken, it's not just paneer makhni, paneer tikka masala, right?
The west parties and the east praise. The Bengal tiger is the only tiger in the world which actually swims up to 6 kilometers. I think it's amazing that in India, we have temples not just for deities. I think cruising is definitely going to become popular going ahead.
Don't you think that could be the future in the next 5-7 years?
Yeah. See the sunrise from one sea and the sunset into the other sea.
And when I went here, I was just amazed. Hi everyone, welcome to another podcast episode of our travel podcast, Where to Next. Today, the theme for our episode is East Coast versus West Coast. But we are not going to talk about the USA East Coast and West Coast. We are going to talk about the beautiful East Coast and West Coast of our incredible India. Now, incredible India kind of has a vast coastline, but the West Coast and the East Coast differ in many ways. So I'm going to pick Sunila's brain and we're going to have a good little discussion on what is the East Coast got to offer and what the West Coast has to offer. Now, Sunila, a very interesting theme that we've chosen.
Yes.
When you think of the East Coast and the West Coast, people generally think of the US. But today, if we are talking about India, what do you think is a good point to start?
Well, I think, whenever we start talking of destinations, I love to first talk of the geography.
Yeah.
Because that kind of gets you started, it gets you oriented to what are we really speaking about. And you remember we had a tour called the Great Indian Peninsula Tour under Veena World, which was a road trip, very long trip. We had trips of 30, 40 and 50 days. And this was one of them. And it started from Gujarat and went all the way up to Kolkata, covering the entire peninsula. So that tour kind of brought the whole East Coast and West Coast together. And there are similarities, but there are differences also in both the coasts. So I think let's start looking at the geography first.
Fair enough. I think I quite like the fact that whenever I ask you about a destination, you like to look at the map, you like to look at the geography. And for this topic too, I think it's better looking at the geography because I remember in multiple podcasts, you have mentioned to me different places on these coasts, right? And I really like how you mentioned that on the West Coast, we often see the sunset, right? And on the East Coast, you often see the sunrise over the sea and the beaches. Another thing is that the two vast bodies of sea, that is the Arabian Sea and the Bay of Bengal, kind of border each of these coasts and then they culminate at this southernmost tip of India, that is Kanyakumari and all of that. So we'll come to that a little later. Then if you look at the geography, of course, there is the West Coast, which has all of these hills, which makes the climate very different to what you will find on the East Coast, which is just plains, like just plains that are just going on and on and on. So the beaches also kind of are different. So that's one way of looking at the geography. Any other points you would like to look at?
Neil, the hills you mentioned are the Western Ghats.
Yeah.
And they pretty much run along the coast all the way around. I would look at the rainy season as well. You know, we've had a really long rainy season this year. And if you think of it, the West Coast gets the southwestern monsoon, which starts in June in Kerala, and which is our southernmost point on the West Coast. So once the monsoon hits Kerala, we know it's rainy season. A good point there, and then the monsoon comes up. Then we know that by June first week, when it hits Kerala, we know after a week or two, we'll get it in Mumbai. It comes up towards Karnataka and then further on. I think one of the things I like about that is because the Western Ghats trap the monsoon, you know, literally, and the whole place just turns lush green, that we can actually enjoy the rains on the Western Ghats too, on the West Coast. So West Coast is equally known for the monsoon season or rainy season as the winter or the other things. Whereas the east coast, it gets some rain during the southwest monsoon. But a lot of the rain here actually comes from the northeastern monsoon as well.
Okay.
So the northeast monsoon, when it comes in, it's a little later than the southwest. So say southwest monsoon gets over by September or October, and October onwards is when the northeast monsoon comes. So Chennai, Puducherry, down south, they will often have rains there in October or November. So you may think, oh, in India, the rains end by September, October. Let me go to Chennai, but think again. Well, if you enjoy the rains, go in there. But if you really want no rains, then you have to plan it accordingly.
I think that's a great way of looking at it, because often, and as you rightly said, people think that the monsoons in India are just June to September. Correct. Maybe. But if you want to really go travel somewhere, and if you want to avoid the monsoon, instead of the west coast, go to the east coast during that period. And during the period of the monsoon on the east coast, there are so many destinations that kind of get unlocked over here. Another way to look at the geography is the states that are on these coasts, right? So on the west coast, if you go north to south, we have Gujarat, Maharashtra, Goa, Karnataka, and Kerala. Yeah. On the east coast, we have West Bengal, Odisha, Andhra Pradesh, and Tamil Nadu, and one of your favorite union territories, Puducherry or Pondicherry, as it was called back in the day. Another way of looking at it is, because it's coastline, because it's bordered by the sea. I remember you telling me that that was the way the different influences that we see in these towns also came into India, right? Like the French influence, Absolutely. The Portuguese influence.
Like if you, actually I like to think of it that the west connected to the west and the east connected to the east. Okay. So it just makes it a little simpler to understand. So if you think of it like who came to the west, right? The traders first came to Gujarat, and in Lothal in Gujarat, they've actually found things from the Indus Valley civilization time where it was a dockyard. So people were trading, and there was maritime trade and things happening there long back, before we could even imagine or think of it. So the Portuguese, the Parsis, all of those people came in first to the west coast because they were all from the west. So obviously when they reached India, the Silk Route and everything, of course that happened through the mountains, but you have a lot of the trade and maritime trade happening from the west to the west. So the British, the Portuguese, all of them came in first to the west coast. Whereas on the east coast, if you see things that you go back from time, then the Thai, the Chinese, all of them were trading more with the east coast.
Like you see many influences there.
Correct. You see these little influences, you find coins, and of course the French went up to Puducherry. In Mahabalipuram, in fact, you find a lot of references to the Chinese influences as well. And the temples were called one of the 7 pagodas. So, these are all reasons and things that tell you that we were connected to the world, of course, and there was a lot of trade happening in both the places.
Okay, that's a good way to set an overview for this episode. Right now, let's get into destinations, what each of these coasts have to offer, because one way to look at it could be like, oh, it's coastline, which means it's going to be beaches. One way to look at it is the fact that it's the coastline, which means it's going to be seafood. One way to look at it could be that, like with the beaches come resorts, come like,
Adventure.
Good nightlife and all of that. But if you really go to deep dive in each of the towns or each of the states, they offer something completely different, something that really makes you believe that incredible India is not just one country, but there are many micro countries embedded within India and within each of these states, right? So I wanted to start by asking you, which are some of the places on these coasts that you have actually visited?
Well, I've been to pretty much everything except Odisha.
Okay.
So that's something on my bucket list, and Kanyakumari. So then places that I still have to go to.
Okay, if you've been to many of the places on either of the coasts, what we'll do is that we'll start with a place on the west coast, then move east, then west again, then east again, right?
Sure.
So which is the first place that we should start with?
The first place that comes to mind is Gujarat. Though I must say I didn't have too much time to spend on the coast of Gujarat, which is what I would love to do. But Gujarat in itself has so much to offer, and we've all seen over the last few years the way it has come up, right? Like it has completely transformed itself. And I remember I went there more than, say, about 10 years back. And that was the first time I went to Run of Kutch. And it was like a revelation to me that something like this exists in India, which is so untouched. And and now it is something that is already on everyone's bucket list. So the white desert, as we call it, the salt marshes, are something that you really must see. But I would say if you're going that far, then don't miss the Little Run of Kutch, which is, there's a beautiful documentary on that, and it is one of the really special places where you can see wildlife. So that is something that you can't miss. And the villages. What I love about Gujarat is the small villages that you go to, Bhuj, Dhordo. When you go beyond Bhuj, you make it your base and you go beyond and you see all of these places. Coming to the coastline at Mandvi, I actually got to see the oldest shipbuilders. So if you go there still, you'll see how people still build ships by hand. So it is amazing to see that happening. And they used to actually make the ships and sell them, and it was all a port that was functioning so well. One of the things I still want to do in Gujarat, and I think everyone should go ahead and do it, is Dwarka. Because which was supposed to be Lord Krishna's city, and they say that they find there are signs to say there is a submerged city down there. So that's a mystery to be solved.
That's what people tend to believe, and I guess many signs tell you that. I remember the episode that we had done on Dwarka, and all of that was explained in it pretty well. That was a fun discussion that we had. One question about the Run of Kutch. Can anyone visit the Run of Kutch all throughout the year, or there is a specific time when you should visit?
I mean, it makes sense to visit it only after the monsoon. So what happens in the Run of Kutch is the water that is there, it has to dry, and that's when you see the salt. There's no point in going there in the monsoon. So you will only go there during India's winter. So say October, November onwards, December, Jan, Feb, up to March is a great time to go there. If you can really plan in advance, then go on a full moon. I was there on a full moon and there is nothing like that. Of course, it tends to be booked way in advance, so probably those dates are already booked. If you can't do that, go at any time. It is still stunning, still beautiful. But yeah, if you're going for something special, then the full moon shining on those white salt marshes is something you can't forget.
And how much in advance should you book?
Oh, way in advance. Like if you want specific dates, then at least 4-5 months in advance. If not, you'll always find something. Like if you can't really take the time, then go with what you get.
Okay, awesome. So we started with Gujarat, right? Now let's come on to the East Coast. What is a place that you have visited on the East Coast?
So here I want to link Gujarat to Kolkata.
Okay.
Because if you see the Dasara celebrations or the Navratri celebrations, both the states celebrated, but so differently.
Yeah.
So, and I was in both places and I've seen both the celebrations. And on the one side, you have Gujarat where you can go in and take part in the Dandiya and the Garba and really have a party in that sense. And then you come to the East Coast and you have the Durga Puja. And I went from Pandal to Pandal, looking at the beautiful, idols and the way the East celebrates, and so spiritual. I also had a chance to visit our good friend Aparna's home. So it was a beautiful ceremony where I could see firsthand how people do it at home, how they do it in the Pandal. Similar to our Ganesh Puja, Durga Puja is really very important to the East.
Does it get crowded?
It does get crowded. There are long queues, but you have special passes. You can do all of that. In fact, one of the tips is dress really well, because people can give you special, like we actually dressed up as Bengali women and we were wearing the Bengali sari in that traditional way. And someone else mistook us for the local people and they said, the way you're dressed, please come ahead. They let us cut the line and go in. So that was quite special.
That's a great tip.
Yeah, so you should really try to be like the locals. And that made me think that, the West parties and the East prays.
That's a good way. Yeah.
All the time. If you think of it, look at the West Coast. We just party. And if you look at the East Coast, you're praying and you're more spiritual all the time. So I kind of like to compare that. Of course, Kolkata is a great starting point. From Kolkata, you can do a lot more things in West Bengal. It's famous for, you mentioned the Bay of Bengal, which is the largest bay in the world. You have the Sundarbans there, and that is again something I want to do. You have Shanti Niketan. A lot of people just love to even go and walk and shop at Shanti Niketan because there are a lot of local artists who do things there. At the Sundarbans, they say that the Bengal tiger is the only tiger in the world which actually swims up to 6 kilometers from like some island to the other island.
Yeah.
So you can take a river cruise to do a tiger safari there.
Oh, wow.
So that is something really
That's
special.
a very different way to look at it, because safaris otherwise are just like game drives, right? You go into the national park and you're doing spotting. But trying to spot a tiger in a river is pretty cool. But now that you said that the West maybe has more like party things to do, more entertaining things to do, whereas the East kind of praise, would you also say that the cuisines that you will find in each of these coasts will be starkly different, or what would your take be on the food over there?
Yeah, they are different. I think a lot of it all, change. In India, everything changes with the ingredients, like whatever is locally produced, locally grown, it influences the food a lot. You remember we did an episode long back on how food changes across India. Like poha in Maharashtra is so different from poha in Indore, is so different from a poha elsewhere, or like the puchka there and the pani puri here. So things influence, the local ingredients influence that a lot, and it changes everywhere. On the west coast, you use more of the coconut, more of tamarind, all along the coast. Again, as you travel on the west coast, it's wrong to generalize, because even from Gujarat, which is predominantly a vegetarian place, to Kerala, food changes in India with every state.
In many ways, yeah.
Even within the state, it changes so much. And on the east coast, it's more mustard oil. So like West Bengal and, Odisha, they would use more of mustard oil, more of river fish as well. So you see all of that happening. Of course, who can forget the sweets in West Bengal, right? They are just amazing.
That's true.
And then towards like Andhra, it's all spicy, fiery food. So you have all the spices coming out. And then as you go further down towards Tamil Nadu, then again you of course have the filter coffees and the dosas and everything, but you also have the Chettinad cuisine.
Yeah.
So if you compare the south, I would say like the west coast has the Malabari cuisine and the east coast has more of the Chettinad, which is spices, lots of spices, some 20, 30 different spices go together to make Chettinad cuisine. So same ingredients or maybe different ingredients, but same basic fish or meat or vegetables, but cooked so differently, and that changes everything.
Now, I'm glad you say that, because I often have this complaint that people mistake Indian food as the first layer of it just being Mughlai food, right? If you break down that myth, you would say that, okay, there's North Indian food and there's South Indian food. But suddenly you've forgotten the Western food and the Eastern food, right? Then if you were to break that down even further, the South Indian food, like you mentioned, is Chettinad and Malabari. If you break it down even further, you'll probably find the vegetarian food there and the non-vegetarian food there. So technically, when you say that, okay, tonight I want to have Indian, if anyone tells me that, my next question to them is, what type of Indian food do you want to have? Because Indian food is just not butter chicken, it's not just paneer makhni, paneer tikka masala, right? It is a whole lot of all of these things.
It doesn't even feature either on the west coast or east coast, what we are speaking about.
And then the biryanis also will kind of differ. Okay, so we kind of deviated, but let's come back to these places, right? So we discussed Gujarat, we discussed Bengal. Next, where would you like to go?
I think let's go, since I mentioned party, let's go to the party place that not just India, the whole world loves to party there. Let's go there. And I think you've been to so many places in Goa that you would also have a lot to share out there.
Yeah, I think, and now that the new airport has opened there, Goa kind of has 2 airports, right?
Yeah.
And I guess Goa beat Mumbai to having 2 airports. Now that, of course, Navi Mumbai has opened here. But now the fact that there are 2 airports, South Goa and North Goa are more accessible, which kind of means that when someone asks me, why do you want to go to Goa, right? Like, I often say you can go to Goa as a family, you can go to Goa as a solo traveler, you can go to Goa for a bachelorette or a bachelor trip, you can Goa just to relax, right? So it offers a mix of everything, and I kind of like Goa just from the point of view that you can enjoy at the beach, or you could have a Goa trip where you just don't go to the beach and you relax at a villa or a hotel, which is probably inside, inland, in the backwaters of Goa. So I kind of like Goa from that perspective. Plus, because of the Portuguese influence in Goa, we mentioned food. The food that you see is very different to the food probably that you will find in Maharashtra, right? So what I like is the jacuti, the prawns ball chow, then the rechado masala that we often see, right? So those Portuguese influences I quite like. Another thing that if I were to think about Goa that comes to my mind, and of course your daughter Sara is into architecture, is that when you go to Goa, I really like going and looking at the architectural design in all of the churches or the heritage buildings of Goa, because Goa kind of has preserved that charm that you don't kind of get to see anywhere in India. And another thing is we are in Mumbai, right? So instead of taking a flight, many people like to take the train, which is an amazing journey. I've done
Or
that in the
drive.
past, or drive, right? So you can decide where to go, and it's very accessible. So I guess Goa would be a place that, yeah, like, I'm glad you took that, because that is a place that just parties filled with shacks and everything like that. So yeah, and have you had any other experiences?
Well, just to continue with what you're saying, Neil, I think you spoke about places with charm, and I think everyone who is to Goa must at least once go to Fontainhas, which is one of Asia, not India, but Asia's best preserved Latin quarters.
Okay.
So you have all these homes in pastel colors, but be mindful because the locals can often get a little irritated with thousands of selfie sticks and people trying to take the perfect photo. So I would just, we can all do our bit to make sure the locals are happy. But some of the best photos, or forget the photographs, but just to have a good time out there, you can walk around Fontainhas. There's a very, very sweet little cafes out there where you can go and have a coffee or even have a full meal like you described. I even found a small shop selling all kinds of tiles and all kinds of ceramics, because they do have all the whole Portuguese heritage still going on out there. And there are a lot of historic small well that you'll come across, or little things. So walking tour in Fontainhas is something that everyone must surely do, other than, of course, the beaches and the other things. And also you mentioned North and South Goa. I found some of the best concept stores in Goa. So if you're looking for very quirky things for home decor, or even clothing wear and stuff, there are so many of those. You can spend a whole day over coffee, even working, networking, buying stuff. And like you mentioned, you can make a whole itinerary of Goa, which could be a food itinerary, just hopping from a different cafe to local food to different cafes all day and night, right?
Yeah.
So there is just so much to do. And another good thing now with two airports is to really divide Goa into north and south. And when you come to South Goa, you can also explore a little bit more of Karnataka. And with North Goa, you can explore more of the Konkan region. So even if the Konkan region of Maharashtra does not really have so many airports, but North Goa serves it well. And to go up to Savantwadi, go and stay at Savantwadi Palace, enjoy the backwaters in Savantwadi. It's a great way to go there and do that. So it's become so much easier now.
You said all of these things about Goa, and there's still one thing that you kind of missed out, and those are the adventure sports.
Yes.
Right? So you can do parasailing there, you can do jet skiing there, you can do banana boat riding there. And it's quite fun. Like, when it comes to Goa, the moment you land there, you kind of have that feel in the air that, okay, like, you can go and do all of these adventure sports. So now, if we talk about Goa, which is a super popular beach town on the west coast, if you were to move to the east coast and talk about a similar popular beach town, would that be Puducherry or Pondicherry? Or something else comes to your mind?
I think Pondicherry would be a fair place to start there, because it has turned into India's surfing capital.
Yeah.
So if you want to learn surfing, head to Puducherry, stay there for a week and learn surfing. There are lots of surfing schools. What I also found, and there are of course a lot of water sports that you can do. Like I mentioned to you, Neil, when I went to Puducherry, I realized how early and bright the sun comes up on the East Coast, and it was a little disorienting for me at first. I keep saying this again and again, but it was to actually go to the beach at like 4 or 5 in the morning and have the sun come up and everyone's walking and active. So things do move earlier on the East Coast. And then you can go and walk around Pondicherry, go to the surf schools there. I also, actually, there are a lot of, expats who have set up small businesses and they have different treatments. So I actually went in and even did some water therapy there, but it was so relaxing to just be on the beach there. The sun sets earlier. So yes, you can say Puducherry is similar. It also has some amazing cafes out there. Some of the local meals that you can have. So you can have lots of cafes, lots of villas, quite similar to Goa. So even to stay, you could be in a hotel or you could be at one of the old converted villas, which give you that peace and quiet to relax, but also to get out and have a great time. And then, of course, Puducherry has Auroville, which is the spiritual aspect. Like I said, the East always has their own share of spirituality, and you can see that at Auroville. So I loved Auroville. I went and actually I stayed there a week, and it was a lot of fun.
And another thing I would say that, you mentioned it as the surfing capital, right? So for anyone watching this, I tried doing surfing lessons when I was in Puducherry. And one of the things I remember telling myself was that I was 25 years too late to come for these lessons, because the older you grow, it becomes more difficult. The fear element also kind of comes. So if you have kids or if you are young, I would recommend going and doing surfing lessons now, because otherwise it just becomes more and more difficult. Like surfing, I talk about that with skiing, like scuba diving and all of that, right? So yeah, that is definitely there. Now, again, if I want to flip back to the West Coast, right? Something that came to my mind was the Netrani Island, which is on the West Coast. It's in Gokarna, if I'm not wrong.
The heart-shaped island.
Exactly. So that is one place, because we spoke of Goa, adventure sports, we spoke of Puducherry also from an adventure sports perspective. I just remembered this, and it is often known, this place, Netrani Island, is known as the scuba diving capital of India. And if you really want to learn how to scuba dive, you should definitely go and do a course there. Anyone who asks me that, oh, I'm going to the Andamans, I'm going anywhere for that matter, and I'm going to really go scuba diving, I tell them that, don't just go for one dive, because you can go only till 12 meters, which is the Discover Scuba. Rather, go and do a learning session, which is over 2 days, and that's when you really get to see the marine diversity or the marine landscapes that are below the water, which you have kind of never seen and only probably seen on Nat Geo or the Discovery Channel. So that was also something that I kind of have.
With adventure sports, don't you think you need those frequency has to be more, because you just get adjusted to things and you become comfortable with the gear and with everything by your second dive or your third dive, and then you enjoy it more.
Maybe in my life I've done maybe 18 to 20 dives in different parts of the world, including India, and I would say that even today, when I would go for my 21st dive, I will see something that is completely different to what I've seen in the previous 20 dives. One that kind of stands out for me is in the Andaman Nicobar Islands, where we went into a place where a ship had sunk in the 1960s. And the moment you go down, you see this massive ship, like how we had seen in the Titanic, right? But of course, that is way deep in the water. Here, you can go to 18 meters and really witness a shipwreck. And that was pretty cool. So if you really want to go scuba diving and you want to get started, I would say get started at a PADI certified center somewhere in Gokarna or something like that. So that is one. Any other beach destinations that come to your mind? Because my next question to you was going to be more so, if you were to come back to the East Coast, right? Are both of these coasts just beaches, or they bring in some other element?
Neil, there are lots of beaches all across. We have the whole coastline. So, of course, if you go down south on the west coast, you have Varkala Beach, all of the beaches of Kerala that are famous. So, of course, you have the beaches. You have Kovalam, Ashtamudi, so many other places that you could go to. But each place has its own local flavor. It has its own local influence. And there's just so much to do. And I think it's not just about the beaches. You move a little inland, and you have so many different things to do. Let's talk of Gokarna. Even when you talk of Gokarna, something on my bucket list again is to have a full 1 week wellness holiday in Gokarna. You have the CGS Swaswara there. And, the beach there is in the shape of Om, like the letter Om. So they call it the Om Beach. And from Swaswara, you can actually see that, you can be there. I think the atmosphere and the location itself will be healing, as soon as you go there. And then, of course, the rest of the treatments follow. So if you want a wellness holiday, that is possible. If you want to go in and do a religious or a spiritual tour, that is possible. If you want to go in and do an adventurous tour, that is also possible. So like Dandeli, close to Goa, on the Karnataka border, also has the rafting, has hiking. There are so many trails. Along the Karnataka coast also, from beach to beach, you can trek and you can go.
Yeah.
So there is a lot of adventure. There are a lot of things to do. I mean, by Karnataka, even along the Konkan coast, you have the zip line out there. So you can actually go up and zip line to the beach if you want. And Maharashtra has so many forts, over 350 forts. A lot of them are sea forts. So along the coast, you can go and visit a lot of forts. And now, of course, our forts are UNESCO World Heritage Sites. So all the more reason to go and visit the forts.
So Sunila, we've mentioned a lot of places more on the west coast. Now let's divert our attention back to the east coast. We discussed Bengal, but there are Odisha and Andhra Pradesh on the east coast. I personally haven't been to either. Probably a visit to Hyderabad kind of does not count, I would say. So what do those places have to offer?
Neil, Odisha, you know, that's why I like to call the East, that the East is more spiritual and it prays. At Odisha, you're spoilt for choice. You have the Konark Sun Temple, which all of us know. And I think it's amazing that in India, we have temples not just for deities or, you know, but we do also have temples for nature. Yeah. Like the Sun Temple is made for the sun, and that's the sun chariot thing, you know, embodying the sun as a god and making sure he has a chariot and putting it out there. So that's something everyone should visit. You have the Jagannath temple as well, and Jagannath is a form of Lord Vishnu. And they say that the speciality here is the Mahaprasad, which is supposed to feed all the devotees that come there. And they even say that they make it in 7 earthen pots sitting on top of each other, and defying everything, the pot on the top cooks first and then the other pots cook. Yeah. So they even say that, you know, that everything inside the temple, the flags and everything flutter in the opposite side of the wind direction. So it's of course the structure and how things are made. So these are 2 things that you should definitely not miss here. Along with that, you know, talking of natural beauty, you have Lake Chilika. So again, that is a place that you should definitely go to. And I remember doing a podcast with one of our tour managers, and he said, a thing that both you and Neil would enjoy is taking a boat ride there and actually getting a fisherman who will catch the fresh fish and cook it for you out there. That's a bucket list item for us. But you also have a chance to see the dolphins in the lake. Mm-hmm. It's that big. So you have dolphins in Chilika Lake. So again, that is something probably we should not miss there. So
it's so cool, right? Like, you know, as you go about mentioning all of these experiences, in many ways or in many discussions, you and I also didn't kind of know that these existed, True. Right? And then you often think of, again, our country as mountains and beaches and desert and everything. But suddenly, when experiences like this come, where you can trek a fort, you can see dolphins also, you can go scuba diving also, and you can probably see the Bengal tiger swimming in the river maybe, right? Yeah. So it's experiences like this that kind of bring you memories, and then that's what kind of defines your travels, right? Now, did we miss anything in Andhra and Odisha, and or should we
didn't really mention Andhra too much, but since we are sticking to the coast, we'll talk a little bit more of the coastal side of Andhra, because I think Andhra also itself can be an episode in itself. Yeah. You know, but talking of that, one place I like to mention is the Araku Valley. It's stunning, it's beautiful. It has a train which, it's like our Vista Dome, so it has panoramic windows. You can take that train ride and go up. You can do a lot of trekking here. The Araku coffee is so special. It's
because that's what I was going to ask. Is that where it comes from?
From Andhra. It comes from Araku. In fact, even in Mumbai now we have Araku coffee available. So that's something, if you want to really go to the origin, then go and visit it out there. You have this very stunning, beautiful Lepakshi temple, which is an architectural marvel. You know, it's said that they have this hanging pillar which does not touch the ground. This was built by 2 brothers. So that's something, you know, like we mentioned, India has so much to do. Every state has so much, but these are definitely the 2-3 things that we must touch in Andhra. Another place I want to mention very quickly before we move on is Visakhapatnam, because Vizag is turning into a very important city, and a lot of things are coming up along there. There are a lot of different routes that you can take when you come to Vizag. In fact, one of the most luxurious wellness centers is in Vizag. So Pema is where you can go in and have a wellness retreat with the stars of the south and everywhere else in India.
Is that the one that you kept mentioning that, if you really want to have a luxury wellness retreat, go to Pema?
One of them. One
Yeah.
of them.
Okay, that's pretty cool. And when you think about Visakhapatnam, it's also an important port, right? And as we talk about cruising as a type of holiday gathering traction in India, and now we have the Disney cruise kind of coming in. We have multiple cruise liners that are kind of sailing to maybe Mumbai, maybe to Chennai, maybe to Visakhapatnam. These port cities also will start gaining traction where a cruise might dock and you probably go and see that city over a day or something. Don't you think that could be the future in the next 5-7 years?
Definitely. I think that's how things are building. We have the cruise terminal in Mumbai that was recently opened as well. So I think cruising is definitely going to become popular going ahead.
Awesome. Now that we've discussed all of these, right, now let's come to the bottom two. There's Kerala and there's Tamil Nadu.
Right.
Now, I have had the opportunity to go to Chennai and of course Marina Beach as it's called, right? I think it's the longest coast promenade in India is what they call it. So I've been to Chennai. We spoke of Puducherry, so I've been there. On the Kerala side of it, I've had the opportunity to go to Kannur. That is Kerala, right?
Yeah,
I think
Kannur
is Kerala. So Kannur, Wayanad, Trivandrum, Cochin, Alappi. I've done all of those things, but I still feel I'm still scratching the surface because I'm sure the things that you probably have on your list of either Kerala or Tamil Nadu will be out of this syllabus and will be very different.
Neil, you mentioned Cochin. If we just talk of Cochin, you can spend 3-4 days just in Cochin. Like I was in Fort Kochi and I stayed there 2 nights, I think, and I could have done more. So all I did was walk all day. You have little art shops that you can go to. You have places with antique treasures. Kochi runs an art festival every 2 years. So you can go for that during the first 2-3 months of the year. So look out for that. And there is just so much to be discovered out there in Kerala. You mentioned the backwaters. So you have Kumarakam, you have Alappi. You can stay on a houseboat. You can just do a day trip on the houseboat. Today, there is, all kinds of holidays in India. So if you want a luxury holiday, you can have a houseboat just for the 2 people or 3 people or 1 family, like a houseboat with just 1 room as well. Or you want to, be a little more economical holiday, those options are also present, of course. But Kerala has everything that you would think a traveler would want, right? Like you have the backwaters, you have the mountains, you have waterfalls, you have trekking, you have adventure as well, you have boat rides and amazing food. I think to Kerala, you can just go for the food as well.
God's own country as they call it, right? And would you say that one trip to Kerala is kind of enough, or you should kind of divide it into multiple things?
If you have the time, 1 trip would be good because you would always want to come back. I don't think anybody goes to Kerala just once, because once you go, you kind of decide what you like and then you can go back there again. So you like the Munnar tea gardens more. It's easy today to do a short weekend trip to Munnar and come back. You like the backwaters more, go back and do another, use one of the long weekends and have a trip to the backwaters. There's North Kerala, there's South Kerala. You like the beaches more, just go to Kovalam and stay for 3 days on the beach, eat good food, have the seafood. You can do so much there. So I think with Kerala, if you have the time, a good week at least or 10 days is something that you should go to Kerala for, and then go back again to the place you like. So you will discover different parts of Kerala like that.
And what about Tamil Nadu? What's your take on Tamil Nadu?
Tamil Nadu, the first thing that comes to my mind, honestly, is shopping. Because it has some of the best silk saris that you would want. The Kanjivaram sari comes from Tamil Nadu. So I would definitely, keep in at least half a day to go into the sari shops there. And even with all the shops in Mumbai, it's still quite nice to go to the place of its origin and buy things there, right? So actually shopping was last on my mind. But when you asked me just now, I thought, really honestly, if I go to Chennai even for 2 days, maybe food and shopping would be top of the list and then everything else. So I think that's how I would put it.
Awesome. So I think we've discussed both of these states also, and we started in the north of each of these coasts and we are culminating towards the southernmost tip of India. So do you think we should get to Kanyakumari and kind of discuss Kanyakumari? So Sunila, like we've discussed a lot of places on both these coasts, but at the same time we've kind of missed many places, I'm sure, because both the coasts have so many places, right? Before we get to the southernmost tip of India, are there any specific mentions that you would like to make?
I would just like to mention the temples of Tamil Nadu because sometimes when we are designing tours for foreigners, they often like to spend like 15-20 days just in Tamil Nadu, going from temple to temple, because the gopurams of the temple are so attractive and so pretty and beautiful, and with all the history and culture behind it, it just all comes alive beautifully. I was at the Brihadishwara temple in Thanjavur, and I enjoyed it much more than I thought I would. So, one tip there again is I love to start early when you're going to a temple, especially. One, you have all the energy. The sun hasn't yet come up very harshly, and you can enjoy your trip better. So, I would say if you're visiting temples, try and go early morning and then late evening. It makes your journey even more pleasant. So there are different routes and different things that you can do there, different food that you can taste. I mentioned one place, Dakshin Chitra, which from Chennai, actually close to Chennai, has all these homes of South India. And I find that beautiful. It all comes together out here. So Dakshin Chitra is this place where they have reconstructed homes from all across the south. And it was really delightful doing that out there. So seeing it there, seeing the temples. So there is a lot to do in Tamil Nadu other than food and shopping, like I mentioned.
I'm glad you mentioned the temples of Tamil Nadu because one of my friends, Siddhant, he lives in Singapore and I met him at a wedding a few months ago. And he was like, Neil, I really wanted to tell you about my latest trip, right? So I was like, yeah, where did you go? So he was like, I went to Tamil Nadu. And I was like, okay, the last time you told me of a trip where you went to Chile and you saw like the night sky, the darkest skies in the world and all of that. I was like, what was so cool about Tamil Nadu? He's like, when I was in Singapore, I came across this podcast where over a 20-part series, they kind of just discussed the temples of Tamil Nadu. And he was like, what intrigued me most is that there are many places of worship all across the world which we see pictures of, from the inside also in many places, mosques, temples and all of that. But in many of these temples, one, you can't take your phone inside and click a photo of. So to the outside world, you don't know what's inside. Sure. Second is, many of these places, you can kind of take a photo from the outside of the temple. But the moment you're inside, the temple grounds are so big and vast that what actually is there inside from an architectural perspective, from a historical perspective, you don't know. So the real essence of these temples comes alive only when you visit them and there is a guide with you, there is a local with you who tells you about the stories and the legends. And he was like, I listened to that entire 20-part series. I don't remember the name of that podcast, but he's like, that convinced me to go here. And when I went here, I was just amazed. Because often we say that, okay, I want to go to this particular site. It could be a temple, mosque, or anything. And you know what you're going to see. But he's like, here I was entering the unknown because I only knew of these stories and nothing else. And when you kind of know of these stories, he's like, your trip is a very, very different experience, right? So yeah, the temples of Tamil Nadu are something different.
Absolutely.
Is what he says.
When we were in Hampi, if I didn't have a guide with me, I would have never realized that the Virupaksha temple has a pinhole camera built into the architecture.
Yeah, exactly.
It was stunning.
For otherwise you're just viewing it and then you're just and we've done like an episode where we've spoken of museums, right, in the past, when kind of museums also are like that, where you kind of walk past something, it may have something of significance, but if you don't have a guide, maybe it will not be as good an experience. Okay, awesome. Now let's come to the southernmost tip, right? I like the way you describe the southernmost tip of India, so I'll let you take the lead on that.
It's been on my bucket list for so long and I really want to go there because the southernmost tip of India is where everything comes together, I feel. Especially if you think of the East Coast and the West Coast, you have the Arabian Sea on one side, you have the Bay of Bengal and the Indian Ocean, and all of them meet at the Triveni Sangam here.
Yeah.
So it's such a beautiful place, and sometimes you go to certain places and you can feel that this place is special. I'll go back to where we started, Neil. It's the geography, right? So this is really special. If three oceans meet, there's bound to be some different energy out there.
Yeah.
And I think that is why we have Swami Vivekananda also, who went here to meditate before he went out to the world. And then you find his rock memorial also out there. I mean, which other place can you go to and see the sunrise from one sea and the sunset into the other sea? It's
from the same
place,
yeah,
which is so stunning.
And I think also the experience of seeing the sunrise and the sunset from the same place probably may exist in many parts of the world where it's the southernmost tip and all of that. But how many of those are very accessible is what I would say, right? Like, say, for example, someone had told me that, Neil, if you go to the northernmost tip of Australia, which is like Queensland, northernmost, there is a beach that you kind of see the sunrise and the sunset. So I was like, how do I get there? He's like, oh, maybe from Brisbane or Gold Coast, you have to drive for 24 hours and then you'll probably get there. So it's not accessible. But here, this is so accessible, right? And I think that's probably the beauty of the East Coast and the West Coast. Now, of course, we've discussed all of these things. I just wanted to ask you one last question to end the episode. And that was that you've been to all of these places, but what is that next place that you plan to visit on either of these coasts?
Okay, that's a good question, Neil. And like I told you, there are a lot of things on my bucket list, but I think the first place I want to visit is the last place we spoke about, which is Kanyakumari, where everything comes together. So yes, that is definitely on my bucket list to go there, and I want to spend time out there. I don't want to do it as a rush trip, because you can do it as a day trip as well. But I want to go there and I want to see the sunrise and the sunset together. So that is definitely something I will do. And maybe Odisha would be the second on my list, because that is a place, I think, which is underrated and we overlook it quite a bit. So definitely that is somewhere where I would go to. What would be your two bucket list items?
I don't know. As I was thinking through this episode, right? One is Dwarka that I want to definitely go and visit. And the second one again is, I've been to Kolkata, but I've not really seen Kolkata in its right way, because I've just been on work trips there, go in the morning, come back in the evening. So I want to really visit Kolkata from three points of view. One is I want to go during the Durga Puja. That's one. I missed it this year, so probably next year. Second is I want to see Kolkata from an architectural lens, because it has a lot of the English influence, a lot of the influence of the East India Company. I want to do that. And the third thing is, here in Maharashtra, we are exposed to a lot of the seawater fish, right? But I want to kind of experience the cuisine of Kolkata from the freshwater fish point of view. So that's those are things that are there. So I guess, Sunila, a fun discussion, right? Like, I'm sure we've spoken of many places, but at the same time, we've missed many places. So listeners, if you think we've missed any specific place, let us know in the comments below. But kind of to sum up, India's West Coast and the East Coast kind of offer experiences that are maybe contrasting to each other. Some offer you great entertainment, whereas some offer you spirituality in its own way. Some offer you shopping, some offer you distinct or different kind of food. It's at the end of the day your choice of experiences that you want, because I think if you were to divide the year into 52 weekends, the East Coast and the West Coast offer you everything that you can do on every single weekend, and every experience will be different from the one that you do on the previous weekend. So that's it for this episode of Where to Next. Sunila, when I was discussing, you mentioned that you wanted to give our listeners a message on different themes that they should probably recommend to us. So I'll let you end this episode.
We've been speaking a lot, but we would love to hear from our viewers what you would love to hear. So give us your ideas and suggestions in the comments below, and we will surely go there and see you again on Where to Next.